All right, everybody. Welcome to. Welcome to what? Welcome to an art stream. I don't know. My brain completely, completely, and utterly short circuited right there. I mean, it just did not know where it was going. But what I was trying to say is welcome to an art stream for Wednesday. Wednesday evening in Northern California. I don't know where it is to whoever will, if anyone shows up, but it is indeed just after 5 p.m. here, which is amazing because I had said, in a rare case, where I had said that I was going to be streaming between 5 and 5:30, and normally whenever I say a time, or a time frame, anytime I use a time frame, that is very nearly a kiss of death to actually accomplishing starting the show at that time. But again, in a rare case, I actually was able to start exactly when I planned to, which was 5 to 5:30. Probably smart actually to not have a specific time, but to give a nice little range. I'll be honest though, this stream, I really did not know what I was going to draw for it because I have some sketch stuff that's really not ready to necessarily move past the sketch stage. There's a lot of stuff like that are literal just, sorry, I'm futzing with the mic to make sure I didn't screw it up. Things that really aren't ready for, oh, I forgot all about the eyeballs. You know what? Okay. That's what I'm going to draw tonight. I'm going to take a quick sip of water, please. Incidentally, I got a notification, which I love, that a user with the screen name Wackadoo42 is now following me, which I think is a delightful screen name. Anytime you have like a rhyming or a clever or funny name like that, I instantly love names like that. That's right, the eyeballs. I haven't done the eyeballs that started this channel off in a long time. Now let me see something here. That's right, I forgot all about the eyeballs. Yeah. Well, you know what? We could do the eyeballs when I start. That's a great idea. This isn't a bad drawing. I'm looking at it in the background because I'm not doing any work on it. I'm just looking at it very quickly. Yeah, I forgot all about the eyeballs. But I really shouldn't because that was the genesis of this, was drawing the eyeball thing. That was one of the first ones. I'm going to move it up in my Procreate stack here so that I don't forget about it. There is also the Sandman thing. I got to get back to that too because I think that's got some potential. But I want to do the eyeballs. I haven't done the eyeballs in a while. Planning to stream for maybe an hour, but probably a little less. I got a couple things to do that aren't immediate, but still want to get them done. Don't like to procrastinate too much on stuff. And I would end up using the stream as a procrastination venue, so not really fair to do that to people who are watching either. I like to give things my full attention, but it would start to drift. So we'll give it the requisite 2 minutes here, or about a minute 15 seconds, just in case anybody joins late or sees a notification that isn't directly in front of a computer, which is often the case for me. A lot of times when people that I actually want to see do streams are doing streams, it's almost never, which, that's why I don't get really upset. Well, I wouldn't get upset anyway. But that's why I'm never bothered by or never I never put any real weight into whether people show up for the streams or not, because so often when people stream, promoted tweet. I'm just making sure I post this. Block, thank you, bye. I often can't attend a lot of streams either. There was one that was earlier today, and I was only able to watch maybe 10 minutes of it because of the timing. It wasn't really, it's not that I don't want to see the streams. It just happens to be that, can't always make them because of the times, which is, and I wouldn't, perfectly fine. Like I said, that's why it doesn't bother me if I don't have a lot of people that show up, because for all I know, people will be watching later on. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started here. Let me do my little switch over thing starting soon. This will be getting replaced. I am getting close to the replacement for this, which I'll admit isn't going to be as fancy and animated. It's not. It will be largely the same, but it's going to be a lot simpler than this. But I don't think that's bad. I think that's okay. I don't need a big overdone opening thing anyway. I really don't. Okay. Oh, excellent. All right. I do really like that kind of stitchy transition thing, though. So here's the eyeballs. We haven't seen these in a while. We haven't looked at the bag of eyeballs in quite a while. So let's go ahead and continue on where I must have left off, which was the purple coloring here, because I don't... Yeah, I think now at this point we're kind of at a color and shading stage. I might mess around a little bit with different shading ideas with this, because it really isn't a piece that's for anything. So I have a little bit more leeway than I might ordinarily give myself when it comes to this. But let's get the color stuff in there. And we are on the purple layer here. So, okay, that's a good brush size. Still have yet to look and see what the selection tool or whatever, that tool that I messed around in one of the streams and realized that I had no idea what it was doing. I think this is probably going to be too big. Oh, no, maybe not. That brush might work. Okay, it's going to be a little faster doing that. So, yeah. Yeah. So, let's see. What have I been watching lately? What have I watched? Well, there's going to be... Wait, was that today's or was that tomorrow's? I recorded a set of 5s today. I can't remember which one I posted, though. Well, in either case, it's either already posted or going... And I'll keep this spoiler-free for anybody who may not have seen the latest, not last, but latest episode of the Netflix show Cobra Kai, which is a... Was that today's? Let me look that up really quick, because I'm going to feel... I would like to actually be able to tell you whether it came out earlier or not, in case you want to go listen to it. I mean, I'm largely going to be doing a far... Oh, no, that was today's. Okay, it was today's. That's right. I thought it was, because I wanted to get that one out pretty quickly. Yeah, that's what I thought. In any event, this is going to be a longer version of that 5. So if you heard that 5, if you haven't, you really won't need to listen to it after this, so you can go ahead and skip it. Or if you did and you wanted to hear more stuff on it, then, you know what? Actually, no, I can keep it spoiler-free. Actually, no, you know what? If I see that someone shows up, I may stop and say, do you care if I spoil Season 5 of Cobra Kai? But as of right now, it shows 0 viewers. And by the time this gets watched, Cobra Kai Season 5 will have been out for quite a while. It's already been out for a little while now. But it is still relatively new enough that I wouldn't necessarily, if on my 5 I did not spoil anything. And I don't really know that I need to spoil much to actually kind of talk about it. And in some ways, this is a show where the spoilers don't seem to really matter. I mean, there's twists and turns, and there are, but Cobra Kai is not a show that really, and I said this in my 5 more or less, it's not a show that really commands a lot of narrative weight. I mean, the Karate Kid movies were fun movies, but much like Top Gun, which strangely people seem to revere in a way that doesn't really make sense to me. Don't get me wrong, fun movie. Don't misunderstand. Fun movie. But it's not a great movie. It's a very simple, kind of straightforward, largely unspecial in many ways movie. I don't say that as a negative. I like Top Gun, actually. I think it's a fun, easy to watch movie that you can kind of... I was talking to my wife, and she had mentioned that her mother had worked for a long time in the court systems, and in jury rooms specifically for a while. And in a jury room, if you've never been in a jury room, they generally run... I mean, they used to. I don't really... Yeah, actually, I think they still... Do they still put stuff on the television? They used to run movies. And generally, it'd be, whatever they had that was an easy movie. And Top Gun was one that was on a lot. And that makes complete sense, because it's a completely... I mean, it's a largely just inoffensive movie in a lot of ways. You can get into whether it glorifies militarism and all that stuff, but unless you're going to start diving into that aspect of it, Top Gun is a largely harmless film in terms of, there's not blood and gore, there's not gratuitous sex or violence in many ways. Yes, Anthony Edwards gets blown up, but even that is just kind of it doesn't seem to really matter. It's an excuse for XYZ to happen. And that's really how I feel about the about the Karate Kid movies. They're fun. I really like actually the first and second ones. I think they're very, very fun movies, but they are complete cotton candy narratives. They don't have anything to them. There's certainly, it's not a franchise that I really would ever have expected to get a follow-up series. I really, if you had said, okay, name 20 movie franchises from the 80s that would get sequel or franchises or series, Karate Kid never would have been one of them for me. Again, that's not to say I don't like the movies. I do like the movies. I actually am probably one of the rare people who thinks the second one is the best one, or maybe that's not controversial. I don't know. I don't look up a lot on what the thinking is on Karate Kid and the sequels these days. So perhaps Karate Kid 2 is seen as a similar type of movie to Terminator 2. One that, while building on what was established in the first film, is a far superior product. I don't know. Again, I don't hang out in Karate Kid Reddits, nor would I ever care to. It's just not a series or a film franchise that is that important to me. However, the Cobra Kai series, when it first came out, and we didn't watch it for quite a while. We did not watch the first. I think it was on the either the third season had just finished, or the fourth season had just begun when we finally got around to watching it. And my wife's sister had gone on and on, as many other people did, about the fact that it was a really good series. And so we finally got around to watching it, and we had a great time with it. And it's a very fun and surprisingly successful reboot, or not reboot, revival series. Reboot is a different type of thing. Revival series or sequel series. Which, just that by itself. Let's just stop for a minute, because I do want to recognize what is a rarity is that it is a very, very well done revisitation of a well-known property. So right there, forget everything else. Anything else I'm going to say. That right there is remarkable. So much of what we see now in terms of actual reboots and sequels and everything else does not work. It just does not work. It ends up just feeling like a cash grab, or in the case of something like Star Trek Picard, feels sometimes like it's made by people who never saw the actual thing it's based on. So that right there, if nothing else, I give Cobra Kai a lot of credit, because it's, the people who made it and are making it. It really is a shockingly faithful and effective follow-up series. Now, having said that, well, I shouldn't even qualify it that way. The first 5 seasons, the 5th one, which concluded recently, but the first 5 seasons, I've mentioned, and Lando and I have talked on our show at times about how very often shows, whether they're streaming shows, television shows, whatever, they often go way past their expiration date. Too many seasons, which often results in shows that are very watered down and lacking in a lot of their creative spark and energy that made them successful in the first place. And so what you end up with is a show that you're watching, but not because you really feel like there's much to watch in it anymore. You're just kind of doing it because you want to see what the conclusion is. There are shows, of course, that are exceptions to that. There are absolutely many examples of long-running series that go into, 10, 11 seasons, whatever, and can maintain that narrative momentum. But they're rare. What's more common is shows that go, I don't remember, Everybody Loves Raymond is one of the ones that they hold up as an example of got out when it was still good. And I don't know how many seasons that went, but I don't think it was even 7. I have a feeling, let me look it up. I'm curious. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is 7. Because 7 does seem to be a magic number for a lot of them. Let's see. Everybody Loves Raymond. Not Everybody Lives Raymond, but it'll get me there. Okay, how many seasons? Spanning 9 seasons. Wow, that's very surprising. I didn't think it was on that long. So there's an example of a show, because that show stopped. A lot of people agree that show stopped while it was still a funny show. So that one went 9 seasons. Wow, that's incredible. But probably even they sensed, okay, we can only run this so far. But I've found that shows, it seems like there's certain numbers, and interestingly, they might be odd numbers. I'd have to actually see. But there's a lot of 10-season shows. 10's also a nice round number for some people. But there's lots of shows that once they get past season 5 or so, you start to see them losing a lot of the propellant that kept them going. And it's understandable. I mean, it's a lot of stuff to have to write, especially in television, network television. You were doing a lot of episodes. So it's less of a, well, I shouldn't say that. It could potentially, for some streaming shows, be less of a problem because they tend to have shorter seasons. So instead of having 24 episodes, many streaming shows are, say, 10 to 12. That's generally kind of where they've settled into. Not all, but many. But with network television, you're writing constantly and shooting constantly. So it makes sense that you can only do that for so long. But even so, honestly, there's very few shows. I'm trying to think. I'm going to look at my shelf here. I mean, I'm trying to think of shows that even went to 7 seasons, besides like Star Trek series, which I think Star Trek Next Generation and Deep Space Nine both were 7 seasons. I might be misremembering that, but they're more than 5. But like Northern Exposure, which is a series I love Northern Exposure. Great show. Hold on, I found a thing on my lines here. Let me fix this. But Northern Exposure went for too long. And there were a lot of reasons behind that. But honestly, that's a show that I love, and it went too long. Just a great show, don't get me wrong. And I actually think it ended fairly well. They got lucky there because they were able to bring, I don't remember what his name is, Rob something. I want to say Rob Snyder, but I don't think that's right. No, Rob Snyder's a different guy. But anyway, whatever his name is, they were able to get him back, and they were able to salvage it because he had left. He was a star who, because of the success of that show, he got very into his own ego and decided to leave, and the show was kind of, they were trying to fill it in with somebody else, didn't really work. Ended up coming back and, again, salvaged the ending of the show. But so to bring this all the way back to Cobra Kai, which is where I started. By the way, I do see that somebody shows 1 viewer. So I will ask this question, and I will take silence or a non-response as not caring. But do you care, person who is viewing according to the Twitch Stream Beta software, if I get into spoilers for Cobra Kai? Well, I guess at all, because Season 5 is concluded. So I'm going to wait a minute or two and just keep doing what I'm doing here. And if I don't get a response, then I'm going to assume that you don't care. Which is perfectly fine if you don't. I just wanted to extend the warning. And I can do it without spoiling it. It'll be a little easier to kind of make some of my points. But it's certainly not something that I can't do without having to spoil anything. I can do a spoiler-free kind of explanation of my one big problem with that show. I have little problems with it, but those are largely... There's a lot of... Problems is the wrong word. There are some very, very convenient things that happen in the course of Cobra Kai over every season that are certainly advantageous for advancing the plot, but have zero connection to actual reality, which I find to be very funny. It doesn't bother me the way it bothers some people. It's because, again, I don't assign that show all that much narrative weight or importance. So I don't really care if some things in the plot... I'm about to sneeze, so I'm going to mute for a second. Woo! Okay. So I don't really care about the plot holes or the highly convenient events that just correspond very, very coincidentally. That stuff doesn't really bother me. Some people get hung up on that stuff. I think if you're talking about a show that's trying to really present its story in a specific way, something like a mystery or a show that's got some kind of clever twist to it, then that stuff becomes more important. But honestly, something like Cobra Kai, which is just, I think, really trying to be a fun show, I don't really care. Does it really matter? Does it matter that in the first season there was a fight, first or second season, that goes on in an LA high school for what feels like it's got to be 40 minutes, and no one calls the cops or intervenes in any major way, to the point where a young man gets paralyzed when he is knocked off of a railing and lands on his back and is then unable to walk, although that very quickly is resolved as well. Certainly faster than real life, I'm pretty sure. Especially in the American medical care system, I'm pretty sure that a individual whose family seems to be lower middle class is able to get what must have been stellar medical care to, maybe they explained it away, I don't know, but it's just funny how even if you get the best care in the world, people who are stuck in wheelchairs generally don't just get up and walk within a few months. And then this same individual, and this is what I mean about these things are in there. They don't bother me, but you can't really pretend they're not there. This same person who has an extraordinarily serious back injury, which at one point the show dangles the idea that he might not recover from, or at least not, I mean, he won't die, but that he wouldn't be able to walk again, which nonsense. You know, a main character's walking again. I mean, that's a show like this is not going down that narrative, a bold route, like actually having a character who suffers a major injury and is unable to overcome it. This is not the show that's going to try to pull that off. But in any event, not only recovers completely for all intents and purposes, you know, they have a couple of episodes where he seems to have some backaches, you know, stuff like that. You know, the minor lingering effects of a spinal injury that it results in you being paralyzed. So not only does he recover, but in relatively short order is back in a karate tournament where he's fighting again. Now, they do have him re-injure his back, which makes complete sense, but no responsible adult would allow this person to go into a martial arts tournament having just recovered from a horrifically serious back injury. It's ridiculous. That's what I mean about it's ridiculous, and yet it really doesn't hinder anything. It doesn't make the show any less entertaining. So that kind of stuff I don't care about, because I've seen some people that get very nitpicky about some of the plot holes and, again, plot conveniences that Cobra Kai has. And I'm sitting here going, yeah, this is not the show where you're going to really worry about the fact that there might be something out of continuity or something that stretches reality. This is a show where there has been a near blood feud martial arts, you know, fights all over the place in public places, people's houses being smashed up, all kinds of things happening, and the cops never seem to get involved and don't seem to care. So you have to throw all that stuff out. But what may actually be detrimental to the show, where in the 6th season, I'm kind of sitting here going, I don't know how you're going to do a 6th season of this, is I just don't know what there's left for them to cover. They have managed in, again, put all the plot hole stuff aside, because I don't think it matters, in very, very successful fashion to essentially tie up a lot of loose ends and lingering stuff from the first, second, and third Karate Kid movies, the original trilogy, in ways that work really, really well. You know, not flawlessly, but again, it's not like the Karate Kid movies are meant to be movies that you really dissect from a narrative level. That's not their purpose. And so the show understands that, and I think does a really good job of going back to that kind of, you know, narrative cotton candy and spinning some new versions of it. But they've now brought back and dispensed with, in some way or another, the main villain from Karate Kid Part 1, 2, and 3. In fact, they took one of the quote-unquote villains of the movie and made him into a really an ally of the Daniel LaRusso character, which I think is great. Chosen is awesome, and he's used very well, I think. They've sent Daniel to Japan so he could meet up with the girl from the second Karate Kid movie. They brought back Kreese, the villain of the first one. Again, Chosen, the villain, quote-unquote, of the second one, who is no longer a villain. And then they brought back Terry Silver, the villain of the third movie. And even Mike Barnes. And actually, I think they got all of the Cobra Kai members who we see in the first film that are pals of Johnny all show up. One of them, I believe, did die of cancer shortly after the episode in which he appeared aired. I think they actually have him die in the show and then he died in real life. I'm pretty sure that's the same person. But they've really, I mean, they brought back Johnny's girlfriend from the first one. Elizabeth Shue was in an episode. They brought back the actress who's, I only know she's in Teen Witch because my wife always goes, it's the Teen Witch woman. Who was, I guess, his girlfriend in the third one. Damn it, how do I get this stupid? Oh, whatever, I'll fix that in a minute. So they've brought, and Terry Silver's now gone. Kreese went to prison and now has broken out after it looked like he might get stabbed to death, which I actually think would have been a good way to end that character. But, you know, obviously they have sequels on the mind. So I don't know where they're going to go. I don't know what a sixth season accomplishes. I really kind of wish, and my wife said the same thing, that they just ended it with season 5. I mean, don't get me wrong. I said this in my 5. I'll say the same thing here. I'm not saying it can't be done. There are lots of very intelligent, clever writers that figure out how to take concepts that don't seem like they could possibly work and breathe a life and a youthfulness to them. They could reinvigorate this franchise by taking it in some wholly new direction. Of course, there is the Karate Kid remake, which I guess would be the next logical place for a show that is so deeply steeped in the idea of nostalgia and revisiting concepts to go. I just don't know how it would be worked in, but they could do it. It's not impossible. But it feels a lot like maybe this should have been the last season. And it would have been a really good final season. If the show had concluded at 5, if Kreese had stayed dead and Silver was going away into prison, it would have been I think, a really good way to just end the series. I really do. Because, they've... Silver and Kreese just seem like too damaged. They are individuals that are too badly damaged to be able to go back into society. They pretty much did that. Because I thought they were trying to rehabilitate Kreese in a way. And I thought that would have been interesting to do. But I don't really feel like that's... I think they've just reverted him back to what he was. I don't think they had any real interest in, trying to see if that's even possible with him. It feels... I mean, I could be wrong. He could end up being a chosen style enemy for him. Or ally, for LaRusso. I don't know. But like I said, the bigger concern to me is, where does this show go now? I don't know. Because it just felt so much like it was the natural conclusion point for the whole... damn it. Hold on, sorry. For the whole series. Sorry I said damn it, by the way. Trying not to swear in this thing, but it misinterpreted my finger movements and jumped around. So I don't know. I'm pretty sure there is going to be a 6th season. In fact, I'll look it up. I'm pretty sure they said there's going to be a 6th season. And I'm just sitting here going, I don't know what that looks like, and I don't know if it's going to be as good. Is there going to be a 6th season? Have they said? Season 5. Season 6. No official word. Well... It's interesting. So, within the last couple months, they said we have lots of ideas. All right, we'll see. But I do sort of feel like this is one of those things where I'm thinking, okay, I think maybe you guys or whoever's in charge of it, I think maybe this thing is at risk of being overextended. Like I said, lots of shows try to go for a long time. Not many really do it successfully. I always feel like 5 to 7 seasons is kind of the magic number to tell most good stories. I say this not being any kind of writer, not being somebody who works in television, having 0 successful television series to my name, having written very few, if anything, any types of materials that could possibly... Actually, I don't think I've ever... I wrote one really... I don't even think it was that long, but I wrote one fictional narrative in my life that was meant as kind of... It was a story. It was, I guess it would be considered a short story that I wrote. It was for a class assignment. I don't even remember when. And I remember liking the story, but then again, I was very young and probably pretty stupid, so it probably sucked. Couldn't tell you for sure. I barely remember... Let's put it this way. I do seem to remember that I based... Although this may not be all that uncommon in writing. I'd have to ask Lando. I do believe I based one of the main scientist characters on a woman that I was interested in. I say woman. I mean, I was pretty young, so I'd say a young woman. There we go. I like to say girl. Girl seems to be something that now, if you're not referring to a very young child, seems to have a negative kind of connotation to it. So, yeah, that's fine. I don't have any problem working around that. So, young woman that I was quite infatuated with at the time. So that to me might be a signal that maybe it was not the best written story. But then again, I don't know. Maybe, you're supposed to write what you know. So maybe that's a very common thing for writers to do, is take unrequited love and put it into their stories. It's very possible. I don't know. Lauren something. I don't remember her last name. But, yeah. I remember when I wrote it, I thought, oh, this is an interesting science fiction story. It probably really wasn't. It was probably actually just a ripoff of other movies that I'd watched. So much of art when you're young is really, intentionally or not, you end up ripping off things that you like. So it probably was a terrible story. But that's what I mean about, I don't know, maybe these writers really have thought out, okay, once we get past all of the villains and storylines that existed in the movies, where can we go? Well, here's where we'll go. I assume that they made some kind of plan past that. I just don't know. I mean, even Stranger Things is ending at season 5 or 6. Maybe it's 5. I think it's 5. Yeah, because wait a minute. Because the first one was the original one. The second one had the tentacle monster thing. The third one... What was the third season about? What was the third season about? The third season was about... Yeah, I think... Oh, yeah, the third season was the mall season. And then this was the Vecna season, so that would be 4. So it would be 5. So they're stopping at 5. That's a good number. I think there, too. I think that, you know... And I like Stranger Things as well. My wife and I both enjoy that show. But it is hard to ignore the fact that it really is just the 11 show. And has been for a little while now. And that's basically, you know, what will happen that makes 11 maybe lose her powers or not be able to use them or decide not to use them. And then, you know, she'll have to save the day. Works. Don't get me wrong. It works. But there is the law of diminishing returns will eventually get everyone. So, we shall see. We shall see. I am looking forward to Quantum Leap, the sequel series, coming back on because I am interested where that's going. I've had a good time with that. Outside of that, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's really new that's even vaguely interesting. There's not much. Oh, there is that 1899 show on Netflix, which is from the people who did Dark, which I love. I think Dark is a great series. Not an easy series. That's a heavy series, not in terms of, I mean, the themes are heavy, but it's more trying to keep track of things. Oh, I think I'm going to sneeze again. Give me a second. Whew. All right, that one, I don't want to sneeze in the microphone at all. That was a relatively small scale sneeze, but still. Probably wouldn't have been all that entertaining to hear. So yeah, they did a series that has one of the leads from Dark in it, a character, a guy that my wife and I both really liked him as an actor in Dark. I don't know his name, I apologize, but he appears to be, if not the lead, one of the main leads in 1799. Or is it 1899? Whatever, something 99. And it feels very much of a piece with Dark. It doesn't seem like it's quite as time travel heavy. This feels more of perhaps alternate dimension type of thing, almost an event horizon type of scenario. But either way, interested. And outside of that, there isn't really much new that I care about. Boy, I remember when they used to announce the new shows and new premises. That type of thing really doesn't exist anymore. Used to hear, okay, here's the big fall debuting shows. They may still do it, but it's not like it used to be. I remember that used to be a big thing. That you would be looking at, say, 10 to 12. It'd be on every network, and it was, okay, this network is debuting these things. And that's all pretty much out the window now. I don't think anything like that is ever going to come back. It will be interesting to see what a network looks like 10 years from now, like a television network, and because the ones that are quote unquote thriving is mostly junk content, not good stuff. It's either reality or faux reality or whatever you want to call it. It's not very good. There was a show that was announced recently that is basically a 30 Rock, the television show 30 Rock parody show that is now basically being aired, which is just mind-blowing. You know, the stuff that is written as a joke that ends up being prescient is really quite something. So we'll see. I don't know. Okay, so we've got our eyeball socket, I guess. Yep, okay. Eyeball socket. So what are we going to make the actual skin of these things look like? I didn't pick a color. Let me think about this. I mean, the impulse is to make it something fleshy, just to kind of make it easy. Well, we can start off with that, and we can see what we get. Let's just start off with a sample color here. So we'll pick something. I don't know. I want to try for something that's kind of a little bit slightly different. That's too close, I think. Let me try this. Let me just see what this looks like. I'm just curious. It's not bad as a base color, actually. That's not terrible. Because I don't want it to look. Oh, I don't want it to just be skin tone. I want to make it something that looks a little bit on the sickly side. And again, I can always adjust this so there's room. And then I'm going to do some shading inside of it, but I don't know. I don't have to go too crazy on this. In terms of, yeah, I don't want to just make it. You could just do basic flesh tone color, but that's sort of boring. I'm not minding that. It's not bad. For my very Christmas-oriented drawing, because when I'm doing this stream, it is December. Oh, it's dead middle of December. So it's Christmas time, for people who celebrate Christmas. Which, well, Christmas is everywhere. That's right. I'm thinking Thanksgiving. I always end up doing that where I'm like, oh well, if you're an American audience, and well, no, Christmas is everywhere. It's Thanksgiving that's a very American holiday, or at least the version of Thanksgiving that we do, which is what is, wow, this is a stunning admission for me to make it at this stage of my life. What is Thanksgiving? I mean, obviously the one version is, oh, you're giving thanks for things you have, but what is the holiday actually for again? National holiday, giving thanks for the blessings of the harvest. Of the harvest in the preceding year. Okay, got it. So this is basically something agrarian holdover from farming and everything, to be thankful for the crops that you got and the food. Okay, I mean, I knew there was the thankful element, but because you often see the pilgrim hats and everything, so I didn't know if it was supposed to nominally be some kind of, founding of America type thing, which I know is July 4th, but still. But I actually legitimately could not figure out what we did Thanksgiving for. So, because I'm kind of a dope. I don't know if anybody's picked up on that yet, but that is the reality of it. Okay, let's see. So what I want to do, what happens if I move this up one? I just want to see. Okay, no impact. So let's see what we can do in terms of, how do I want to shade this thing? Okay, let me think about this. How do I want to shade this thing? My first instinct was to go to the stipple brush, but I'm kind of using the stipple brush on a bunch of stuff. And I don't know, a stipple brush for something that's organic doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense to me. I'm thinking more something that's got a fluidity to it, or some kind of motion to it, or something like that. I don't know. So maybe something in like an oil paint. Maybe. So I want to take this color. Well, actually, that doesn't matter. Let's darken the color a bit. So let's actually create a... let's move this layer down. And then let's just do a... Okay, well, not that. I need it to be a solid color so I can change it. There we go. Nice little swatch there. Wow, 3 viewers. Welcome, 3 viewers. That's the most I've had. Oh, well, now back down to 2. Didn't last long, but what a ride well it did. Let's see. So we want brightness. Where's brightness? Here we go. Okay. 3 viewers for about, I don't know. I saw it. It was about 2 seconds. All right, let's go ahead and erase that. It was just funny. I don't know that I've ever had more than 3 viewers. I can't remember, so I'm going to say no. All right, where's that oil brush? I don't know if the oil brush is going to work right. Where? Oh, paint. Let's see. It's so, what do you call it? You can barely see it. You can't even see that. How is that going to, it can't be that. No, it's not going to be oil brush. I can tell you that. Not going to be oil brush. Okay. Did I? No, I definitely did the darker color. No, I did that. But that's oil ain't doing it. Let's take a look. Let's see what fresco looks like. I don't think so, though. No, God, these are terrible. Why are these so bad? Did I not pick the right color? No, I got the right color. Why are these so awful? Jeez, man. I guess maybe because it's paint. I don't know. Let's try the Oriental brush and see what that looks like. Oh, now down to 1. Oh, that was a short peek. Let's see. Artistic. Old Beach. Okay, that's way too big. I just need something that's blendy. Not a word, but using it as one anyway. No. Clay. Yeah. That's a texture. It's just tricky. It's tricky to figure out what's what. Oh, wait a minute now. God, why is it so hard to see this stuff? Oh, it's not necessarily terrible, but I don't know how I'm going to work it here. Like, I mean... nah, it just doesn't look right. You know what I think we're going to have to do? Masculine... Oh, you know what? It's just a bag of eyeballs. It's not really anything. Oh, yeah, well, yeah. Okay, I mean, I remember MS Paint, too. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I think this is one of the first things that I started doing on the streaming, for the art streaming stuff in general, because I just wanted to do, like, a form thing. I figure maybe 3 viewers. Oh, hey, whatever. I mean, I was just curious because the number kicked up so quickly and then shot back down. So I legitimately don't care. I was just kind of surprised because I don't think I've ever seen, or it's been quite a while since I've seen 3 viewers. Yeah, I'd be like, I don't know what I'd be like. But that's the only reason I don't. Oh, what did I do there? Oh, I know what I did there. I moved these layers. I'm going to move the white layer back down. It's really not necessary. Yeah, I don't know what it is. It's just a bag of eyeballs. But because I was just kind of showing general shapes back when I started this thing, which I do want to, I don't want to do a crappy job with it. So I'm just trying to work out how I want to. I think I'm just going to go with the cartoon. I think I'm just going to go with my strengths, quote unquote strengths, and just stick with the coloration stuff that I normally do, which is kind of the more cartoony or the simplified thing. Because, and this will be dark because it's up here, so it's supposed to be in shadow. So see that? Oh, is that not dark enough? I feel like maybe it should be darker. Yeah, you and me both, buddy. Believe me, I'm with you. I don't think that's dark enough. Let me move this down a little bit. I want it to be pretty obvious that it's... Yeah, okay, that's better. Let's, okay. Let's do this. Let's sample that color. There we go. Okay, so let's see how we want to do this. Oh, good. That did go behind. Okay, excellent. All right, yeah, you know what? That's going to work. It's okay. I don't need to get all... I don't need to pretend that I'm some master of a technique that I'm not. Just stick with what works. Yeah, there we go. It'll look fine once it's done anyway. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I was going to try and do some kind of like painting technique, but I don't know. Maybe it's just because I don't have enough of a command of this program to know what I'm doing. That's very, very possible. So I'm just going to stick with kind of the classic cartoony way of shading, because why am I putting on airs to be anything other than I am? I like cartoony shading anyway, so it's fine. It's no big deal. Okay, do that. Yeah, I think this was one of the first ones, if not the... I'd have to go back and look, but this was one of the early images I did when I was just kind of demonstrating the fact that you don't have to be just drawing to draw. You're not really trying to necessarily do something specific. Now, what I want to see... I can do most of this without having to think about it. This might take a while, now that I think about how this is going to work. This shading on this thing could take a very long time, because if I'm going to do this all like this, which I'm not saying is a complaint, I'm just realizing now that, yeah, this is going to take a while. What I should do is, where is the shading layer? Hold on, let me turn the color off. Yeah, see, there's the... So which layer is that? It's not that one. One of these I should put on top of the other ones. because it has the... hold on, why is there so many of those? Jeez, how many of these are there? You know what? Why am I not doing this the simplest way to do it? Which is to do a new layer on top of everything. Go to my sketch pencil. I mean, you want to talk about overthinking. I will turn the... I just want to make sure I have the light point right. So let me turn these back on. There we go. There's the light source. But honestly, it doesn't have to be this difficult. It really doesn't. Subtle changes in green. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm gonna aim for. Is, like I said, I was thinking of doing something sort of more clever than it needs to be. But basically, if this is the light source, that's the light shooting up. I just need to... Am I on the right layer? Yeah. I just want to create kind of basic shadow spaces that I'm going to fill in. So this, this pencil thing is just meant to show me where I'm going. So we'll do... And if closer to the light, it's going to be harsher, so it's going to be thinner. Further away, we'll do something like that. Yeah, that'll work. And then this will all eventually get filled in. So we'll do a little bit of that. Hey, fill all works, by the way. Worst cases, go to fill all. Not the worst thing in the world, really. Okay, we'll make this sort of ripply. And we'll have it coming around. And this will all get filled. I'll drop the opacity on that, obviously, quite a bit. So if we're shooting the light off that way, let's have this be a nice harsh light there. This doesn't have to be realistic lighting either. I mean, it's obviously not. It's a bag of eyeballs. So I'm not overly concerned about the shading being realistic because it is a giant bag of eyeballs. But I want to add a little bit more depth to it. I don't want it to just be flat all over the place. Just because, why not? Why not? Why not see how it looks? And this is going to be extremely harsh because it's right on top of that. Okay, well, it can't be like that. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to generally follow these lines more or less. Follow those like that. Do the shading there. And, I mean, I'm kind of following also the the reflection lines like these right there. Following those a bit. Okay, let's do this. And we'll do that. I think that covers all the major areas. Yes, it does. Okay, good. So now let's turn off these. Excellent. And then we will take the opacity on this quite a bit down. And then let's grab our color. There's our dark green. Let's go to that dark green layer. Let's get back to our inking pen. And let's see. Yeah, those are a little different because they're back there. So let's just do a general kind of approach to this. This will be my kind of outline of where I want to go. Nothing set in stone necessarily, but just kind of a general following of where I want to... Oh, not there, though. I don't want to cross... Don't cross the barrier. The Great Barrier. Like in Star Trek 5. Okay, so let's try to follow these lines a bit. Not that I can't really erase these either, so it's not like this is... Even going over the black lines isn't going to lock me into anything, so it's okay. Yeah, no, I like this. This will work. Let's fold that over. I do have to be somewhat... So this can show you where the shadow area should be based on light source. No, it doesn't. I drew that, if that's what you're asking. No, the program doesn't do that. I basically, when I did the initial sketch, here, I'll show you. No. There are programs that can, I mean, you'd have to have 3D, though. That's the thing. It's not a 3D program. But that's actually a good thing. Let me group these, because I need to group the colors. So it's actually good I did this. Colors. All right, no, this is the initial... That right there is the first sketch. This is where it started. See, and I just did the shading lines based on the fact that I had a... what do you call it here? Because I drew that light source there. So basically, I took that light source and then I just did these lines coming off it, and I'm basically... Actually, you know what? Now that I say that... hold on a minute. Because some of the shading that I'm seeing in here is actually pretty good. So let me Let me see. I did some where I was more rounded than... Oh, no, actually, I generally followed what that was. That's not that far off. It's really not. No, that's actually pretty similar. Oh, I see what I did. I put more... Really? Hold on a minute. Oh, yeah, wait a minute. Oh, no, that's right. No, I got him. No, I'm pretty much following him. So, see, those are the general shit. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, well, okay. I appreciate that, number one, but let me be very, very clear about it. I'm not doing this with any real command of lighting. Like, I'm kind of in my head figuring where it's going to be. But this is certainly not... I mean, if I was going to really do this, I'd probably... I mean, not that it matters. This isn't supposed to be for some kind of project where lighting matters. But the way to do this, if you want to do it, was you get like a little... what do you call it? Like a little... I'd almost get like a little bag of rice. Put it in a little sandwich bag and put a flashlight against it and take a picture of it. And that's how I would model it if I was really going to model the lighting. You know what I mean? That's how I would do it. This is just fun. Because it's one of those things that... this is one of these things that you get trained on when you're in art classes or art school. Really early is the... And honestly, I'm not even doing it what they consider to be the right way. I'll show you what they tell you as far as what the actual quote-unquote right way to do shading is. This is the classic model. You search for basic shading tutorial, basic shading tips, how to put shadow on something. Here's what you're going to see. Some variation. I guarantee this is what you're going to see, right? You're going to see this. You're going to see a sphere, right? That's what you're going to see. Okay? And then you're going to see this. You're going to see a person shading along that sphere, kind of, arcing a bit. Giving you the roundness of it, right? And then they're going to, they're going to do a little bit more like this. And then what they're going to point out to you is that you don't want to shade all the way to the edge, because in real life, shadows don't work that way. The darkest part of the shadow is actually before the edge. It's like in here, right? So and this would be shadows that kind of, because there's reflected light. And so this is the way that real shadows in the real world look. And then you would just thin your lines out. And, you could do whatever you want down here, right? But this is the basics of how do you shade a sphere. That's it. You're going to see some version of that. And then if you want to translate that to something straight. So, okay, let's say this is a arm that goes to a wrist, okay? So the light source is up here and it's shining down, and maybe there's a table underneath here. Well, then the shading, again, wouldn't go all the way down. It would be like this on the arm. And you can kind of see this on your own arm. And depending on how harsh the light is and where it's placed and everything else, right? Okay, there's the arm. And then the darkest part is going to be somewhere in here, right? Because what's happening down here. And you could actually have some kind of color down here, but you don't want it to be the darkest part. Because this light that shoots down is hitting the table, bouncing, and coming back up to hit your arm. Therefore, shading should not be uniform beginning to end. Now, honestly, I fully acknowledge that that's the case, but I really don't care because I'm doing cartoon lighting. So I don't care. So yes, my blacks go to the edge because I don't care. But this is, especially the sphere, this thing right here, right there. That is the classic thing you'll see as a way to show you how real shading is done. So if you ever look it up, you're going to see a variation on that for anybody who's teaching life drawing or, still life or whatever. And yeah, well, the program straightened it out. But yeah, that would be considered a good sphere. If you're in an introductory class and they say draw and shade a sphere and you produce this, you will get a very good grade because you have produced a sphere with realistic lighting. There you go. So that's what the lighting should look like on the whole thing. And honestly, that is a pretty good sphere. I have to say, for one that I just banged out, that actually doesn't look bad. But anyway, that's not what we're doing here. We're doing eyeballs, so I don't care. So this would not be considered accurate lighting. Or if you want to use video game terminology, there's no ray tracing here where you're not getting the reflected light, to use a very technical term. But I don't care because it's a bag of eyeballs, and therefore, who cares? So, all right. What time is it? Okay, you know what? Actually, we'll do a few more minutes here. I'm going to do a little bit more of, where was I? I was on one of these things. Let me drop the opacity down. But I'm almost at the end of, our time is almost up for this evening. Okay, so, yeah. There we go. I see it. So, yeah, I'm following that. I did that one. I did that one. I didn't finish this one. This is where it was. So I'm on the right layer. Yes. So, yeah. That would be real lighting. If you were doing true or lifelike lighting, that's what it would look like, because you're taking into account light bounce, which of course any 3D program will do for you now. So that's what I mean about, if you use a 3D program, you'll be painting that light on there really easily. Okay, that's a good spot. So we will, let's see. Oh, I went a little bit further down. So let's go ahead and, how do I want to do it? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have it swirl up. I'm going to do this a little bit differently. I'm going to have it swirl up and join with... Really? Now, with like a couple minutes left, you're going to fail on me? Oh, 100% CPU. Yeah, they undid whatever fix they did. I had a little stretch there, a couple weeks maybe, where the Twitch Studio was really smooth. And then they did something to it. I don't know what they did, but they did it. Anyway, at least it's easy to get it back. Where now it's hitting... Now it dropped down to 50%. What could possibly have happened that would make it hit 100%? Nothing's running. It doesn't matter. Okay. So, let's swirl this out here. But you know what? Sometimes I take that as the program saying, all right, time to take a break. So you know what? We'll stop here. We'll stop here. It's a good place to stop. But yeah, we'll keep going on the bag of eyeballs, because now that I'm doing the lighting, and I got to draw a sphere, which is probably something that I haven't done like that since I was in school. Just to draw a simple sphere. So it's nice to know that I can still simulate. Yeah, well, that's yeah. And I don't draw ultra realistic most of the time. I do very few ultra realistic. I mean, I can actually find one. This one, the original. Do I still have the original back here? Oh, I may have erased it. This is a. Oh, there it is. Okay, this was an old drawing that I attempted to do realistically. I did it based on an ad, and then I had to take I think I took a picture of somebody with a gas mask. I think it was myself, because I have a bunch of gas masks, because I used to collect them. So I think I had the gas mask and I had the hat. The ad, I believe, or no, actually the ad was, okay, the ad was everything that wasn't, hold on, what did I just do? Oh, paint stroke. The ad, because I remember it now, the ad did not have, there was no arm in the ad, and he wasn't wearing this stuff. So it was like a, it was some kind of clothing ad or something like that, where the guy looked like, he was kind of leaning back and wearing a suit and looking very nice. And then I had to add the arm kind of coming up and holding the hat, and then the gas mask and the hat but this was done with a pencil, or, graphite, probably pencil, and this was attempting to make something look realistic and lifelike. And where I'm going with that from there is into this, which is the more cartoony version, because that's what I like doing and I'm better at it. So that's what I mean about it doesn't have to be a realistic thing. But yes, quick tip on how to do shading. The thing I did with the sphere is what is considered a realistic approach to shading, where you are taking into account the fact that light bounces. So that's why the sphere looked the way it did, because shadows almost never, not never, but almost never actually run to the edge of an object. Generally, if there's a reflective surface. Now, if you had something that was like a, what do they call it, Vanta Black or wherever, where it was a true black and was absorbing light, in that scenario, then I don't think you would have the reflected light. I'm pretty sure, like if you put your arm over a black hole and put a spotlight above your arm, I think in that particular scenario, you wouldn't be getting bounce reflected light. So if you ever do that and you're doing a still life of somebody with their arm over a black hole, which would be astounding to see, then you wouldn't have to worry about reflected light. But on normal terrestrial Earth plane stuff, reflected light is generally considered part of realistic shade. And that's as close as I will ever get to issuing any type of artistic, teaching, whatever advice, because my general advice with this stuff is just draw whatever you want to draw and don't worry about what it looks like. whether it's realistic or not, whether it's got correct shading conventions, blah, 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 blah. Art is whatever you want to make it. So, to conclude, as I try to do with every stream and usually fail at about 50% of the time, go out there, create something, enjoy whatever is left of whatever day or afternoon or morning or evening or whatever it is that it is where you are. Yeah, I mean, that's it really, if you don't do artwork, it's not, that's what I mean about it. And that's only if you're doing still lives. You know, if you're trying to do realistic stuff. If you're not, none of these rules actually matter. That's, of course, the realistic background to all this is that art doesn't really have any rules, because art is whatever somebody looks at and appreciates as a creative work. So that shading thing, yeah, if you want to draw if you want to try to draw or paint a realistic image of a marble or some kind of reflective sphere, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Then it matters. And there are people who want to do that kind of artwork. Well, then you're going to have to learn that stuff. I gave up on that because I ain't never going to be one of those guys. I never was going to be, and I'm certainly not going to start now. I stick with this cartoony stuff. That's what I like doing. So the bottom line is, whatever you end up creating, you should enjoy creating it. Whether it follows what somebody thinks it should look like or not is honestly not even secondary, not even tertiary. It should be way towards the bottom. The most important thing is creative expression should be fun, and you should be happy with what comes out of it, whether somebody else is or not. The other stuff tends to follow. If you don't like it, there's very little chance somebody else will. So you have to learn to appreciate what you can do and just go with that. So, actually, I shouldn't say that. Sometimes people create stuff that they probably know is bad and other people get it. But that's getting into art speculation and the way that art is bought and sold, which is completely separate from the actual creative process and any type of artistic integrity. So we're not going to start on that now. Anyway, go out there, create something. Thanks for stopping by and watching the stream, and take care.